Good evening, my friends. It is with profound gratitude and a heart full of love that I stand before you today in the sacred spirit of Assisi, a place that resonates with the eternal vibrations of peace, humility, and divine connection. The title of our gathering, Not of This Body, Sacred Teachings from Assisi, invites us to explore a truth that transcends the physical, a truth that St. Francis of Assisi embodied so beautifully, a truth that reminds us we are not merely our bodies, our possessions, or our fleeting desires. Eternal souls, sparks of the divine, here to awaken to our higher purpose. Tonight, I want to take you on a journey, one inspired by the teachings of St. Francis, a man who walked this earth not as a prisoner of his body, but as a vessel of divine love. His life in Assisi, his surrender to spirit, and his unwavering commitment to living in harmony with all creation offer us a roadmap to transcend the illusions of this physical world and reconnect with the sacred essence that resides within us all. This speech is an invitation to step out of the confines of the ego, to release the chains of materialism, and to embrace the sacred teachings that remind us we are not of this body, but of something far greater. The illusion of the physical. Let's begin by addressing the core of our title, Not of This Body. What does it mean to say we are not of this body? In our modern world, we are conditioned to identify with the physical, with our appearance, our achievements, our bank accounts, our roles, and our status. We look in the mirror and see a body, a name, a story. We think, this is me, but is it? St. Francis would gently shake his head and smile, reminding us that this body is but a temporary vessel, a vehicle for the soul's journey in this earthly realm. The body is impermanent. It is born, it grows, it ages, and it returns to the earth. Yet within each of us lies something eternal, something untouched by time or decay. The great mystics and spiritual teachers, including St. Francis, knew this. They understood that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, not human beings occasionally dabbling in spirituality. The body is a tool, a gift, but it is not our essence. Our essence is the divine spark, the soul that connects us to the infinite source of all creation. St. Francis lived this truth in every fiber of his being. Born into wealth, he could have clung to the comforts of his body's desires, fine clothes, lavish feasts, and social prestige, yet he heard a higher calling. He stripped himself of those illusions, quite literally, when he stood in the town square of Assisi, removed his fine garments, and declared his allegiance not to the material world, but to the divine. In that moment he was saying, I am not of this body, I am of God. The sacred teachings of Assisi. So, what are the sacred teachings of Assisi? They are not found in dusty tomes or rigid dogmas. They are alive in the air of this holy place, in the simplicity of its hills, in the humility of its people, and in the legacy of St. Francis. These teachings are universal, timeless, and accessible to every one of us, no matter our faith, our background, or our circumstances. Let's explore some of these teachings and how they guide us to live as souls, not bodies. 1. Live simply, love abundantly. St. Francis taught us that simplicity is the gateway to freedom. In a world obsessed with accumulation, more money, more things, more status, Francis chose less. He embraced poverty not as deprivation but as liberation. By letting go of material attachments, he freed himself to love abundantly. He loved the poor, the sick, the outcast. He loved the birds, the wolves, the sun, and the moon. He saw the divine in everything and everyone. What does this mean for us? It means we must ask ourselves, what am I holding on to that keeps me tethered to this body, to this illusion of separateness? Is it fear? Is it the need for approval? Is it the pursuit of more? Simplicity is not about giving up everything you own. It's about releasing the grip that possessions have on your heart. It's about making space for love, for kindness, for compassion, for connection. I challenge you today to simplify one area of your life. It could be your closet, your schedule, or your thoughts. Clear out the clutter, and in that space invite love. Give a smile to a stranger. Listen deeply to a friend. Feel the warmth of the sun on your face and know that you are part of something greater. When you live simply, you create room for the sacred to enter. 2. See the divine in all creation. One of the most beautiful stories about St. Francis is his sermon to the birds. Imagine this, a man standing in a field, speaking to the creatures of the air as if they were his brothers and sisters, and they listened. Why? Because Francis saw no separation between himself and the natural world. He saw the divine in every blade of grass, every animal, every human being. He understood that all of creation is an expression of God's love. This teaching is radical in its simplicity. It asks us to shift our perspective, to see the world not as a collection of objects to be used or conquered, but as a sacred tapestry woven by the divine. The person who cuts you off in traffic, they are divine. The tree outside your window, it is divine. The struggles you face, they too are divine opportunities for growth. How do we apply this? Start small. Look at someone today. Really look at them. See beyond their body, their clothes, their behavior. See the light within them, then look at yourself in the same way. You are not your mistakes, your fears, or your physical form. You are a spark of the divine, just as Francis saw in all things. 3. Surrender to the divine. St. Francis's life was a masterclass in surrender. When he heard the voice of God calling him to rebuild the church, he didn't argue or negotiate. He didn't say, "Let me check my schedule," or "What's in it for me?" He surrendered. He trusted that the divine had a plan far greater than his own. And in that surrender, he found his purpose. Surrender is not about giving up, it's about giving over. It's about trusting that there is a higher intelligence at work in your life, even when you can't see it. The ego, the part of us that clings to control, to the body's desires, resists surrender. It wants to plan, to manipulate, to dominate. But when we let go, we align with the flow of the universe. We become instruments of divine love. How do we surrender? It begins with trust. Trust that you are exactly where you need to be. Trust that your challenges are not punishments but invitations to grow. Trust that the divine is always working through you, even when you feel lost. Take a moment each day to say, "I surrender my need to control. I trust in the divine plan," and then watch how your life begins to shift. 4. Be an instrument of peace. Perhaps the most famous teaching associated with St. Francis is the prayer of St. Francis. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. This prayer is a blueprint for living as a soul, not a body. It calls us to bring love where there is hatred, pardon where there is injury, hope where there is despair. It asks us to transcend the ego's need for revenge, recognition, or reward, and to act from a place of pure, selfless love. In today's world, we need this teaching more than ever. We are surrounded by division, anger, and fear. The ego tells us to fight back, to prove we're right, to protect our little corner of the world. But Francis shows us another way. He shows us that peace begins within. When we cultivate peace in our hearts, we radiate it outward. We become living examples of divine love. How do we become instruments of peace? It starts with our thoughts. Notice when you're judging, criticizing, or holding onto resentment. Pause, breathe, choose a different thought, one of love, forgiveness, or understanding, then carry that peace into your actions. Speak kindly, act generously, be the light in someone's darkness, transcending the body. These teachings, simplicity, seeing the divine, surrender, and peace are not just ideas. They are practices that help us transcend the body and live as souls. But let's be real, it's not always easy. We live in a world that bombards us with messages that we are our bodies, our possessions, our achievements. The ego is loud and it's persistent. So how do we stay connected to our sacred essence? First, we must cultivate awareness. Awareness is the key to remembering who we are. Take time each day to pause, to breathe, to connect with the stillness within you. Meditation, prayer, or simply sitting in nature can help you tune into the frequency of your soul. When you feel yourself getting caught up in the drama of the physical world, pause and ask, is this who I really am, or am I something more? Second, practice gratitude. Gratitude shifts your focus from what you lack to what you have. It reminds you that you are already whole, already divine. St. Francis was grateful for everything, the sun, the rain, the leper he embraced. Make a habit of giving thanks, not just for the big moments but for the small ones, the warmth of your coffee, the laughter of a child, the breath in your lungs. Third, serve others. The ego keeps us focused on ourselves, our needs, our wants, our fears. Service flips that script. When you help someone else, you step out of the body and into the soul. You don't have to do grand things, hold the door for someone, listen to a friend, share a kind word. Every act of service is a reminder that you are connected to all beings, that you are not of this body but of the divine. The legacy of Assisi. As we reflect on the teachings of Assisi, let's remember that St. Francis was not a saint in the way we often think of saints. He was a human being, just like you and me. He had doubts, fears, and struggles, but he chose to listen to the voice of his soul. He chose to live in alignment with the divine, and in doing so, he transformed not only his own life, but the lives of countless others. The legacy of Assisi is not confined to a time or a place. It lives in you. Every time you choose love over fear, simplicity over excess, peace over conflict, you are carrying forward the teachings of St. Francis. You are embodying the truth that you are not of this body but of the divine. A call to action. So, my friends, as we close this evening, I invite you to take these sacred teachings into your heart. You don't need to travel to Assisi to find them. They are within you right now. You are the temple, the sanctuary, the holy ground. Your life is the canvas on which you paint your divine purpose. I challenge you to live as Francis did, not as a body, but as a soul. Simplify your life, see the divine in all things, surrender to the flow of the universe, be an instrument of peace, and above all, remember who you are, a spark of the divine, eternal, infinite, and whole. Let us end with the words of St. Francis's prayer, a prayer that calls us to embody these teachings in every moment. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O Divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Thank you, my friends, for being here, for listening, and for choosing to walk this sacred path. May you leave this place knowing that you are not of this body, but of the divine, and may you carry the teachings of Assisi into the world, spreading love, peace, and joy wherever you go.